We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Cash Flow Pro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day out there today. And today I am here with Julie Holly of Three Key Investments. And Julie and I were talking a little bit before we hit record, and she was telling me that she is from basically the middle of nowhere, and she referenced to the fact that she was north of Boise enough, like one audiobook or one long audiobook north of Boise. I had never heard it put like that, but nevertheless. So Julie, how are you today?
I'm doing great. The sun is out and I could almost wear short sleeves. I'm happy.
That's what we're all looking for. We're all looking to get rid of that winter, those winter white legs or whatever. That's what my wife calls it. I don't know what it is. It's my legs are always white, but anyhow. So, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Julie. We want to hear, kind of where you started and then kind of transition into how you decided that maybe real estate was the right move for you.
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, Casey, thanks for having me on your show. It's awesome. I love your show.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say, since I love books so much, and I actually have it right here because I always have books around. If you haven't read The Alchemist, then everybody needs to read The Alchemist. Have you read it?
I have not, but I am absolutely right. It's on my list.
Listen to the book because it's fantastic. And really my story is very similar to, the character in that story, which is that I really believe we're all created and hardwired with like this inner purpose and contribution to the world. And that comes with challenges along the way. Like, how do you really want it? And a lot of people, most people end up just kind of settling and they just say, oh, yeah, you know what? I was a classroom teacher. That's good enough. I'm contributing to the world. I'm a good person. I'm helping little children learn how to read. Check all the boxes. I should have a fulfilled life. But really, there was more that I wanted in life. And if we're willing to listen to that call of desire and no, I think there's something more I have to contribute. And it took me a long time to figure out how that led to real estate syndication. And that's why I referenced The Alchemist, because we have to be willing to say life is a journey, not a sprint. It's a marathon, and it's okay to iterate along the way, and that's what I did. So I was raised in residential real estate. So you've had your past in residential sales and everything. That's how I was raised the bread and butter. And I bought my first house in my at 23 years old, and it was sweat equity and everything. And I thought that I would just have this little, graduated college, 22, started teaching, bought my first house. And I just thought, real estate's great. I'm just going to have this little rental portfolio type thing with single family houses. And next thing you know, I ended up in real estate sales because what happened, there's a real reason. Your job has a limitation. And I thought that I was in the little comfort of being a government employee. I thought I could just be in the safety zone and hey, nothing bad happens if we're employed by the government. Government's not going away overnight.
They're not going to file bankruptcy, I don't guess.
I know. I'm going to be, and kids have to have a place to learn. I'm pretty sure I have job security and I can just do this. I can retire, teacher pension, all of that, retirement. Great. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Year 3, they started handing out pink slips. And I'm like, what? I thought I was in a safety zone. So I'm in my mid-20s at this point, right? 25. And I'm like, wow. So I am expendable. And I think a lot of people listening, you gotta realize, I don't care who you are. you're expendable. And so
Yep. That's exactly right.
your company can just say, oh yeah, you're no longer needed. Take your box, go, bye. You can. It won't be as bad as Enron necessarily, but I fortunately did not receive the pink slip. I had just enough seniority, but it was enough to light that, rekindle that. Hey, what's my contribution? Whoa, there's something more in life. What can I do? And so I went into real estate sales, back into education, had kids, stayed at home, went back into ed. But in those periods, we were picking up single family, just like doing full remodels and then renting them out and things like that. So I had this.
Okay, so you were doing a buy and hold, basically.
Did some help. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you ever sell any of them? Sell any of them?
Yeah, now I have. I'll never go back to single family. I literally, Casey, I have looked at single family.
But that wasn't the objective at all. That wasn't the objective at all, was to buy them.
The objective was we didn't know any better. Even though I'd been raised in residential real estate, even though I knew commercial brokers, nobody exposed me to syndication or the benefits or advantages of investing in commercial real estate at all. And I say it like that because the longer you explore, say, apartments and self-storage, you start to realize there are a lot of asset classes that are so advantaged that for me it started with multifamily, and now I know in time I'll expand and add to that portfolio, but I'm highly focused on multifamily. So that's how I ended up. I was driving to the gym and I realized as I was listening to Bigger Pockets, Monique Holm comes on and shares about syndication. She's the first woman I heard on Bigger Pockets, and she's the first person that I ever heard the word syndication. And her journey was very similar. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could relate. And I realized it was like, I say I have a spiritual testimony, like my faith testimony, and I have my real estate testimony. And this was like one of those clouds parted, like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so everything that I had done in my career path in the past all came together. It's like, I want to contribute. I want to help people. I want to educate people. Everything comes together in this really beautiful way through the syndication model. And now I help people from the top down. I don't help kids. It's great to help kids. But if I help their parents, now I'm helping generation.
You're indirectly helping them.
Yeah, I'm helping current right now and the trickle down effect.
That's right. And and so many people's story, I guess, is similar to, it's like all of a sudden, and it was the same with myself, was just all of a sudden one day, like this cartoon light bulb went off, and I was like, wait a minute, I can put all of this stuff together. Because as I've said many times on the show, the real estate sales business, much the same as your single family fix and flip or fix and flip to rent or whatever, buy and hold, whatever. The scalability of that is you can only go so high. And once that light bulb came on, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Because one thing that I had always heard, and of course you see all of the big wheels on TV and wherever, and all that kind of stuff, that say there's more billionaires made, or more millionaires probably, or I don't know if it's millionaires or billionaires, but made through the real estate business than basically any other industry, because the overall value of real estate is always there. It's always worth something. And they own a bunch of it. And I kept thinking, I'd have a closing and I'd cash a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 commission check. And don't get me wrong, I'm blessed enough to know that those were very good days, and the commission checks were wonderful. But even when cashing a $40,000 commission check, and I even had up to a $100,000 commission check, and when cashing those, it still felt like, okay, so I'm going to cash this, then I'm going to go pay all these bills that whatever I've got going on here, and I'm going to invest a little, buy a rental house or whatever. And it just always felt like there's a ceiling, and it's always just kind of like right here. It might be going up, but it's always, then when I hit the syndication world, like what you're talking about, where it's just like, aha, that's how they do it. They structure it. They use other capital. Same way a lot of the Fortune 500 companies that we know of were built through these same techniques, right?
But it is, and to
And
your,
so,
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your point, it's like, not only is like, I mean, we're invested, we have a broker, and my husband's still in the residential world. There's a joke that I actually like fired him from my company because initially when I got into syndication, we thought it'd be a good idea,
Pink
but
slip.
he could do that. Yeah. And it's like, you know what? You speak residential and you rock that, and that's great, and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
So you just stay there managing broker, do all that. Okay. You do that, you run with it, I'll run with mine. Which is really great to know thy strengths and everything. But it's always like it's transactional. And that's what feels that ceiling. It's like transaction. Either I flipped a house for the house, I flipped the house, and now I got to go on the hunt for another one. Oh, I closed, I listed that property and it's sold, or I got these buyers, got this, and it's done. It's done, and you have to go after more. Versus when you are in these. Oh, and then let's just put in there, as you were talking about paying bills, I'm like, and set aside a chunk for a museum, right? And so it's like all this pain where there's a better way, and it's really easy. And
well, and in true Warren Buffett fashion, it's and I heard this term many, many, many years ago, and it took a long time. Like when I say a long time, I mean years for it to resonate with me exactly what he meant by the term lumpy income. And although I was always, again, very blessed and very fortunate enough to churn enough commissions to keep things going, but for just to the point of a transactional business. And I actually have used that term many, 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 many times when explaining it. And it's funny that you said it, because it's just like, it's transactional, and everything was wonderful until my wife at the time decided it was that we needed to part ways. Okay. So what do I call that? I call that a life event. Okay. And transactional businesses are wonderful until something called life steps in and says, ha ha ha, I don't think so. And
here's your
so,
pink slip.
and I
Here's a
say all of
recession.
correct. Correct. And I say all of that to come back to the fact that when you're looking at things through the lens of a transactional business, and again, I'm all into sayings, and it just seems like 1,000 of them come to my mind when we start talking about this stuff. But I had an uncle one time who said, "We're all 2 weeks from going broke," and I'm like, "Wait, what? We're all 2 weeks from going broke?" And when you live in a transactional world, and you live in the self income, the lumpy income, whatever type of words you want to use to describe it, that's where it's at. I mean, and that's what it is. It's a transactional, lumpy, 2 weeks from going broke business. So I agree. I'm like yourself. I mean, we're just right spot on with one another as far as where we are when we found out. Now, I don't know now, but I'll tell you. And for those that haven't listened to the Bigger Pockets, which is who she referenced, I mean, I really encourage you to check out their stuff. I don't care to at all give another podcast a plug on here, because they've provided so much value to me and to our community as a whole, that there's no way that anybody could say don't go check those guys out, because everything they do and everything they talk about provides value for what her and I are speaking of. So, all right. So I want to transition here and talk a little bit out of kind of, we've moved through personal life, what brought, had kids, W9 job, or everyday ground pound 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it, to now we're in the syndication world. And I always like to hear kind of first deal stories, and maybe you mentioned something about the first deal earlier, but I just want to go back to it, or discuss that.
Oh, goodness. Well, I think that what is interesting and might be helpful for a lot of newer people that are newer to the space is that you're going to have multiple first deals. So, and
Yes,
I think that that's really something that people aren't talking about very candidly.
Yep.
So you might have a first deal that you're trying to put together and it falls apart. You might have that first deal and how you're partnered in that deal is different. And
Yep.
so let's see. I have the first deal of I was an LP first. And I think that that was a very
You,
important position to go in first. I am a firm
yes.
believer before you go active, you should be passive. And that was
You
my
have to
commitment.
see it.
Yes.
Yep.
And
You have to see it.
it's critical.
There's just, yep, 100%.
And a lot of my investors, I can relate to them. I serve a lot of first time and I nurture a lot of first time investors, and I
Sure.
understand all of those feelings of I think I know you, think I like you, I think I trust you, I think you know what you're talking about, I'm pretty sure, but I don't really know enough about this. Can I really trust you? Like all of those feelings are things that I can resonate with because I've been in that situation. I knew enough to know how to make an investment, but I didn't know enough to know if it was really a great deal.
And until you've been in that position, you don't know who you can like. I mean, it makes perfect sense because now you can step around to the other side of the table and now you can say, hey, these are the things you need to watch out for. These are I know these are your big objections. And that there you go. That, I mean, objections marketing, marketing 101. First word you learn in marketing is objections and how to solve them. But yeah, and just to your point of multiple first deals, you could, in my opinion, of course, you could close your first deal and actually get funding and get your investors and put everything together. And in my opinion, you move geography, you move asset class, you move you move operator, you move anything. And that's almost a potential new first deal because there's a whole lot of all of that stuff now that you have to learn that you learned about this other whatever it was. Now you have to learn all of that again about a different area, a different asset class, something like that. So you can never stop learning. Am I right?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. A million percent right. So I think starting as an LP for me was like super important, especially knowing that I wanted to serve
Sure.
investors, on as part of the GP team in the long term. So I was looking at my long term goals and looking at, how am I going to pave the path, the runway to where I want to go. And then from there, I actually, brought in investors to a deal, and it was more like it's a strategic partnership. And what that means is, hey, you're not on
Yep.
the GP, but you're along for the ride, and you're going to nurture and care for things. And a lot of people are like absolutely cringe at that, and it was the best experience ever. It was a safe experience because my thing is investors always come first. Investors even come before my partners. Investors are the number
Absolutely.
one partner that I serve, and I have literally backed out of a deal that we had an accepted LOI. We were doing more due diligence, and it was like, okay, but I have to be the voice for the silent partners. I love you, team,
Yep.
but I had to see these red flags. How are we going to protect these people? So in doing that, like
Yep.
basically serving investors and going on as kind of like an intern, if you will. It's like interns don't really get paid, but they get the experience, and it's a
That's right.
safety net, and you know that your investors are 100,000,000% in the right spot, right positioned well. That's how you
Yep.
build your track record. Sometimes it comes not by gaining monetarily, but gaining that experience from people that have gone full cycle multiple times and have absolutely crushed it. If you can find, to me, that was gold. I have this opportunity to partner with this group. This is gold. I'm running with this opportunity.
That's right. I was just going to add to that you have to that you're providing value by not diving headfirst into something that, to be quite honest, could potentially take moving heaven and earth to get out of if it were to something were to have not been measured correctly, and it's too late once you're in, and now you're down 10,000, now you're down 100,000, now you're down a million, whatever it is. And so, you know, that's where the value comes in, and that's where that experience, and if you were watching your GPs as an LP investor, speak for the silent, speak, give the person a voice that has no voice, or that technically, theoretically doesn't have a voice. But no, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you're spot on with a lot of this stuff.
Well, and what it comes down to is life isn't about dollars and cents. Like, if you're
That's right.
measuring your success and your contribution to the world by money alone, you have a limitation in your life. But when you say
Yep.
my goal is to serve and support these people, everything will come back tenfold. It takes longer, but you gain the
Yep.
experience, you gain the track record, you gain the credibility because you're doing such a 10x service to clients that it's just going to spread like wildfire. And then now it's led to even though it was a strategic partnership, that was law of the first deal material that led to two other
Yep.
deals, and we're hopefully going under contract on a third and potentially a fourth. So it's like how
Yep.
you get your first deal might not look the way you want, and maybe you're not getting this like monetary compensation. So you got to decide. And that's what I had to decide for myself. I jumped at the opportunity because it's like, no, we both know, at a certain age, if you can learn
Yep.
from the right people, then now you have habits in place and you have a thinking and a philosophy that is grounded not just in what you think might be good, but grounded in actual practical experience that is going to outlast.
Yeah, and that's what you're really, because honestly, when an investor invests with you, they're for all intents and purposes hiring you. And that's what they're
1,000,000%.
hiring you for, is so that because you don't want to just be a good marketer. You want to be a good marketer to attract a good investor, but you also want to be a good marketer in order to showcase your skills, not pretend you have skills that you don't. And so, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of people out there that do. And I think when we start looking at all of our big syndicators, the people that were in 2014, 2015, 2016, or really I say early on, and they've built these big portfolios. That's the direction I think that a lot of this business is going. But everybody kind of uses those as high water marks, and they always say, and every one of them says, that once you get your first deal done, everything else is cake. Not cake, but I mean, everything else, the second deal falls together, the third deal falls together, the 100th deal falls together, and everything keeps coming. So,
It kind of beats you up
so
though.
tell us a little.
Let's be
What's
real.
that?
It can beat you up too. And that, I mean, like being able to learn in the safety net for me, just because I do
Yeah,
want to do such an excellent job at what I do, is like the great little
yeah,
incubator. Cause honestly, I like crashed. I crashed. I did not
yeah,
meet my expectations. I did not exceed my expectations. And so it was like, oh, and a lot of people will, a lot of capital raisers, which I don't really prefer the term capital raiser, because it should be far more than bringing capital. You should be really taking care of your investors. And so, but I
yeah,
mean, most people, and I was one of them, I'm like, oh man, I mean, I have a podcast, I have a following, it's small, but I mean, bringing in, a half a million shouldn't be a problem at all. And so many people underestimate that it is actually
yeah.
so much more than that. So I got schooled, and I am so grateful for that. And that led to stronger raises in the future.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I can't tell you how many folks have been on this show with MBAs. I mean, and maybe you have. We didn't even discuss college. Do you? And maybe you have one. I mean, I've got a ag econ degree, agricultural economics degree. So I mean, I don't know that I really am supposed to be on the level with these people, but a lot of it, when you start looking at capital raisers and the correlation between the education that people have gotten, there's no education like a real world education. I don't care what book, what class it was, what anything you took. The people with MBAs, I guarantee you, are not any better off than you. Now, maybe they might know a little more intricacies about capital stacks or maneuvers or things like that, but at the same time, I feel like if we come into business, we do what we say we're going to do, we show people what we say we're going to show them, and we know when to say no, then the rest, everything else will fall together.
Oh man, no, no was a word I used a lot before
Yeah.
going into my first
You got,
partnership.
you Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cash Flow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show. Kids? How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids. I use no a lot.
I've got 5, and I guarantee you that no, it's no, 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 no. Well, why not? And then I got to say, because I said no. So it's like reiterating. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I get it. You got to watch the movie Yesterday, though. But, it's like being able to know what are your values, who do you want to align with, what are you bringing to the table? Because there's so many people that will just rush into a partnership just because, it feels good. And but these partnerships are critical in who you are partnered with. And so I like so many people. I think that the multifamily space and commercial real estate has some of the, it's a concentration of the nicest, kindest, most well-intentioned people. But those are not all the best partners for me. I can like them, and I can recognize that this partnership isn't going to be an alignment that is going to serve the silent partners to the best.
How difficult is it? And I don't know if you've had this happen, and I know I have, but how difficult is it to be like $5,000 or $10,000 cash dollars into due diligence and have to pull the plug and say, sorry,
it was difficult.
I'm out.
It's difficult, but you know what? Oh gosh, that's like so real. But it is difficult. But really, this is what I have. I have, Casey, it's called the Sleep at Night test. And you know what? $5,000 or $10,000, and I bet most people listening know that. Yeah, it's not. I mean, that's vacation. Like, I don't want to lose vacation, right? But however, I would way rather lose my own money and walking away from one deal and losing, money was like way better.
$10,000 is $200 from 50 investors. I guarantee you that if they were to step into a deal and they lost $1,000, $10,000 a piece into a deal because you said you didn't know to say no because of $200 per investor and you lost more than that. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's all a math thing and risk v reward. And how do you, you have to know what's a palatable risk, I guess, if you will, especially when it's not necessarily yours or mine or our money or whatever it is. So no, you have to do that. And hey, and let's be honest, you have to be able to say no to some investors. I mean, I don't. The thing is that
I've done that too.
I had a guy one time tell me, he said, "Hey, if you have to drag them in, you have to drag them around." And the thing is that I don't, you can't operate efficiently while you're wiping somebody's nose because they want to know why the lawn care people didn't empty that. I'm just I'm just talking about like micromanagement kind of stuff. And so you have to know, and you have to be able to see those signs, because again, you're fixing to get into a relationship that could take moving heaven and earth to get out of.
It
And
would take
I liken it. Correct. It's much like a marriage. I mean, it's it's easy to get into and very difficult to get out of if you find that maybe this is a troublesome partnership or a troublesome deal that you've made or something like that. So, nevertheless, we're pushing up against our time here, but so I've got a couple of last questions. obviously we've already mentioned The Alchemist, but without mentioning The Alchemist, and I've started a precursor in this question without saying Rich Dad Poor Dad. What is the best book that you've recently read?
Okay. Prefacing my answer with, I run a book club.
Awesome.
So with that said, the best book I ever have read is whatever book that I either just finished or we're just starting, because what happens as you read is that if you're reading quality books, you are growing and evolving as a human. And if you continue to read, every single book is going to transform and shape you just a little bit more. And so every book you read really should be the very best book that you've ever read. Yes, that first book you read way back when will probably be the one that you can recognize as, oh, that was a Genesis moment. But all of those books that you continually read are going to be sandpaper refining you. So reading is absolutely critical. Everyone needs to be doing it. I do have a book list available. So right now, we are reading Who Not How.
And oh my gosh, I am too. It's unbelievable.
And I already understood the concept, and everyone listening is probably like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, check. And I kind of was dismissing it.
If it makes sense, why weren't you doing it before?
Yeah, but that book takes it, so it's like open heart surgery, and it makes it practical, and it just has opened my mind to a whole new level. So much so that when we get off done recording, I am actually hired a very solid VA team, and I'm meeting with them and bringing more who's into my life.
Well, that's wonderful, and that's a good way to do it, and way to put the practice, right up front and get going with it. So, all right, next question. I've tried to find a way to phrase this, but what is a dream vacation you have either taken or would like to take?
I absolutely love traveling. It depends. If it's in the summertime, it's going somewhere where I can just mountain bike with my family and tear it up and ride great berms. So 1,000,000% that would be summer. But winter in North Idaho is winter in North Idaho. It's cold, it's snowy. Yeah. So we love going down to Mexico. So just put me in the Caribbean, put me on a beach, put me at some all-inclusive place where I can just chill and the kids are happy and nobody's doing chores and we're getting sunshine. Vitamin D, baby.
Yep. There you go. That's wonderful. So last question is, so if a listener has heard something that maybe they're interested in your book club or whatever the case is, and I encourage listeners always to reach out to our guests. If a listener heard something they connected with and would like to chat with you maybe a little more about, what is a good way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, head over to 3keysinvestments.com and schedule a time to talk. Let's hop on a call and talk. I'm very accessible, especially on social media.
Awesome. Now, I will, as my listeners are very well aware, I'm always keen on making sure that we get this right, but that's THREE, not the number, www.threekey, plural, that's S, keys, investments.com. So
Thank you.
THREE, plural S for keys, plural S for investments, and .com. And Julie, I can't thank you enough for carving just a little bit of your time out to be with us and bring our listeners some value. And I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Love the conversation, Casey.
Yes, ma'am. Well, good. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for listening to Cashflow Pro today, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day.
Cashflow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.